Unless a person has endured really dark and difficult things in their life, they simply will not have the emotional sensitivity or spiritual depth to relate to you at the level of soul. They won't really experience you or this life with holy wonder. They have not been initiated into the abyss of ego death to rise back into the light of understanding the significance of your presence in their life. Find people that will treat you as sacred and appreciate the value of your soul. Erica Stanton. Welcome back, everybody, to episode 5 of Joint Discussions Pod. I'm Lauren Wild, and I'm half of this lovely joint discussion that we have going on here with my co-host, James Mummer, the most sexy 6'7" man on the planet.
Oh, girl, you know, that's me.
6'7".
It's so good to join you. Yes, 6'7". Apparently that's now like I see kids doing it like in one finger, two fingers, like gang signs right now. I'm like, y'all better be careful flashing 6'7"
No, that
anywhere.
was 69 in the 90s.
In the 90s, but now it's 6'7". And 67 or 6'7" has literally replaced 69 to this generation. To
I know,
ours.
isn't that so weird?
We always laugh at 69. They're like, what's that for?
Yeah,
But
they don't get
6'7"
it.
they think is hilarious. And I've gotten caught a few times already this past week or two. I would say, oh, it's like probably 6 or 7. And they're like, 6'7".
They have this hand thing. Yeah. That's like such a great way to kind of get back into this week. Many of you may have heard last week, we talked a lot about dealing with screen addiction with kids and what it's looked like to get into the outcome of removing their epic distraction and constant dopamine giver. Today, we are here to talk a little bit about some of the byproduct of removing those screens and them filling their time when we're like, y'all need to make friends. You need to go do things. And one of those things that just so happened to also be like a blast from the past, if you will, for you, babe. I'll let you tell the story of how this opportunity landed when we found out about a person in the parking lot going into an amusement park. But then what happened after that? So tell us about what happened in the parking lot, and then I'm going to take us into the next piece.
We decided this prior Labor Day. I had no work. You had no work. Kids had no school. We have amusement park passes to Kings Island. Shout out Kings Island. It's not as good as Cedar Point, but it's still cool enough.
I haven't been to Cedar Point in like 15 years. I want to go.
Cedar Point is the king of roller coasters, the queen, the royal highness of amusement parks. Kings Island is no scrub. We decided to go there on Labor Day. Gonna make breakfast for everybody in the morning, and then we'll just kind of casually leave right around lunchtime. It's about 45 minutes down there. We got all the kids with us. No, four of the kids.
We had 4 of the kids with us.
It's hard to keep track sometimes.
There's so many of them.
If we have 4, 5, or 6, or however many we're going, or
6, 7.
So we had 4 of the kids with us. It's about an hour ride down there, and they're doing their things. They're actually on their phones.
Yep, we let them.
We knew that the reckoning was coming on a non-holiday. Like we said, we'll start this Tuesday. We get into the parking lot, and our son Marshall, as I turn the car off, I got a question. I was wondering if I could meet my girlfriend. She's here at Kings Island too.
What?
Yeah, rewind for a second there. We had to say, what? You have a girlfriend for one. That's okay. That's news. Also, we just got here. People have to pee and stuff, and you're literally asking us to leave to go hang out with your girlfriend.
James and I had just taken a gummy each as we walked in. We find out about this girlfriend 2.2 seconds after we put our gummies in our mouth.
And this was just something that they do. All of our kids do this, though. Not with a girlfriend, but they spring shit on us at the last second.
It's called being put on the spot, and I remember doing it to my own mom as a kid, and this is karma.
It's karma, but it's also hard when you have 4 other voices, 5 other voices, however many is at the time, who also want things. They're also listening because they're taking notes as well to see, is this sibling going to get away with this? Because now I know I can probably do the same, and then they build off each other. We've said they're like hyenas. They're like a pack.
They're
hive
a pack
mind.
of wolves. Yeah, hive mind.
So we get in there, and me and Lauren on the fly are attempting to figure out what we're even going to do here. We don't want to reward our son fully without at least fleshing out some questions. We just learned about a girlfriend.
Yeah.
When this would be our first girlfriend in the house.
Yeah, this is the first girlfriend situation.
Like serious relationship. And I say serious in all of the teenager quotes because, God, we probably know that it's their first one where they're committed.
And they want them to meet us.
Right. Remember, Marshall had said, Dad, I want to go meet them and hang out with them for a little bit. And we were just like, okay, we just got here to be a family, but some of our family decided not to come. So like maybe there's some like flexibility. But wait a second, you want to go off with someone that I've never met or even heard about. That's the thing. It wasn't just that we found out that this person was his girlfriend. This was the first time we'd heard this name.
Yeah.
Like, boy just got into middle school. Our middle school, has 3 or 4 elementaries that it's merging. He met this person at middle school. So we were today years old to even know her of her existence. And now you want to go hang out with them.
Yes, yes. And this is actually a really funny and long story that I'm sure we're going to get into in other conversations. But where it gets really interesting isn't the day that, we're at the amusement park. It is a couple of days later. And that's what I want to focus on here today. You tell me what you're thinking.
But you don't want to just, like, the people at home don't even know how awkward it got because.
Oh my God, it was so awkward.
It was awkward because we essentially worked it out so that the girlfriend could come join us. We were thinking, and she was going to be with us for a couple hours and then we were going to do our own thing. It was still early in the afternoon. And then we end up with 2 extra siblings that are all in middle school. So we are now have 7 kids.
Yeah.
That 3 of which we just met.
Yeah.
2 of which don't know anybody else. They're just the siblings. It was the most fucking awkward day of one of my adult days that I've had because
I was so grateful for that gummy though, babe. Like that gummy came in clutch because like just put yourself in the situation. We had to stand in line with his girlfriend. We never met for like at one point an hour and a half to get on a ride.
Oh my God. And people, you've been to amusement parks. You know this. You're standing in line for a roller coaster that is moving about 10 to 15 feet every 20 seconds. Or maybe you might be real excited and get to take 20 steps at once, but then it's right back to the grind. And so here we are watching in real time as our kids without the girlfriend are kind of getting on each other and like being physical in a line of roller coaster riders. Our son is not quite doing what a boyfriend should do. I mean,
oh my gosh.
It's clear energy of this is my first relationship, but I really don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, it was so awkward, guys.
There, and it was 6th grade for me, so it was the same grade. Yeah. Greenview Middle School.
I really want to go on a tangent right here about the patriarchal and matriarchal lines that we're always trying to close gaps on with our parents and how we tend to repeat their patterns later in life, but I will digress for today.
You'll digress because that was an incredibly awkward day, but what the point of this episode is, and hopefully some of that humor brought you into something that could get a little sticky for people where faith is involved.
Yeah, and that's like such a great way to segue back into, the meat of our discussion today. James and I both come out of conservative backgrounds. He completely grew up in it. I didn't come into it into my early 20s, but got radicalized. Both of us have taken a pastoral route, a leadership route, and both deconstructed out of Christianity, something we just weren't ready for. It wasn't on the bingo card in 2025. Was on Wednesday, our son Marshall reaches out and he was like, hey, can I go to church tonight? I want to meet my girlfriend there. So I was like, in the middle of my workday. Number one, they don't care. They're just going to barge in and ask for what they want. But I was like, send me the link. Like where, what time, how long, what goes on? So then he comes back and he tells me, and sure enough, it is the youth group that James used to be the youth pastor of. And I have to be like, hey, babe, here's what's cooking right now. What do you think?
It's not that our son wanted to go to church. It's not about that for me. It was, in the moment, was where it was.
Yeah.
It was at a place that I ended ministry at, that I'd left for reasons that we're going to get into tonight.
Yeah.
I have so much history. It was actually a church that I went to growing up as a high schooler, and in college when I come back for breaks, and when I got married and moved to this area and started going there. I had been going there for over a decade, like 15 years at this point. Wow. And now my son wants to go to church, to that church tonight, to youth night, which is something that I ran not 5-6 years ago.
Yeah. Talk about going back to like the scene of the crime.
Scene of many crimes, for sure.
Yeah.
It was interesting because I did not drop him off. I was pickup duty. A little backstory for you is that this church is only a couple of miles from our house. It's on a very, very busy street in our town, something that I drive by frequently. So I've been reminded of this place for years and years after I left. During my deconstruction, I'd drive by and I'm just dropping some things that people like in the Navy would be like probably proud of.
Yeah.
And getting into the parking lot, I had some emotions. I just wanted to be out of there, frankly. I wanted to get out as soon as possible. But of course, a middle school child who's there with their girlfriend is going to milk the clock. And so I sat in the parking lot for 5-6 minutes, got to the point where I sent the text, do not make me come in there. You do not want that. To his credit, he was actually on the way out. I had not seen that as I was completing the text. So when he got into the car, I said, you can ignore that last one. Going to that church was quite the experience.
Think about that in the context of like thinking about one of the kids going back to the church that I got kicked out of and demoted from because I was practicing yoga.
How dare you?
I know.
Those yoga pants, though, they make people sin.
Oh, that we won't get into that tonight. But
I was trying to bait you.
I know you were, and we could totally go down that line, but we won't tonight.
Just dress more modestly, okay?
Oh, my God. He just wants to fight, guys. He's going for it. When I think about that through the context of like the place that caused so much harm for not just my own mental health, but for my family's mental health, to think about like our kid going into the place where so much harm was done. I remember it because you came home and you felt stoic to me. Like you felt like you had to armor up to go in there. And we really actually are just now like unraveling this with you guys. So, grab some popcorn. But like what came up for you? What did it trigger in you? What's cooking for you internally, babe?
When you have triggers, when you have these responses, there can be so many things that flash. And that's what happened to me. It was like the first things that came up were my boss at the time and the other guy who was the boss, the administrator. All of the things that they did that were just not church worthy. I thought about the youth group that I led and how all of the relationships that I formed with students and the way that I tried to relate to them, like, made me proud of what I did. There's so many things that are so complicated and interwoven that you have to be able to try to detangle some of those things away. And then that's where you can really direct your anger. And I didn't want to direct my anger fully at church in and of itself and the whole thing. Now, that might be separate from like the faith aspect of God and things like that. For me, taking out those really positive moments, that's where all the triggers and responses landed. It just made me sad. It made me angry and it made me sad.
Yeah.
What if our son wants to keep going there? We both found out pretty early in our dating that we were ex-pastors and deconstructed. And I remember saying that I have no problem with any of my children that would want to go to church. In fact, I would encourage that in the sense of community. There is a lot of instances of community in church, and community is important, especially in the self-isolation phase that this world is in post-COVID.
Yeah.
And the very screen-dependent kind of relationships that people have, having some sort of community, whether that's a sports team, whether that is church, whether that is some other extracurricular group. I'm in favor of that for my children because we had a kid tell us not too long ago that they were lonely.
Yeah.
And that's because they don't have true community.
Yeah.
Or they allowed the things that were taking their attention to take away from the fact and let them see that community that existed. That answer is so much easier than all of the other things that we might get into tonight. I'm cool with it if our kids want to go to church, if they want to go to a mosque. I support freedom of religion in this country and in this house because you've got to find it yourself. Because when I grew up, religion was about what my parents believed, and I didn't have time to fully think about it for me until I was deconstructing.
Yeah. So in my world, in the deconstruction process, the kids were so young when I deconstructed and I left, and their dad did too. You know, they have memories of church, but not really like deep seated memories. I made a pretty conscious decision. I'm an astrologer and I study different times of massive initiation for humans, and one of them is 12 years old. It's called your Jupiter return, and it's when you're meant to like seek something beyond yourself and grow your consciousness. I kind of like decided that between 11 and 12, starting to have conversations with them about different kinds of belief systems or faith systems or et cetera would be something that I would start conversations around. But up until that point, really letting them kind of come to me. And so Judah, the oldest one, he was definitely the most interested. There was a period of time when he was about 10 and a half, maybe 11, where I bought a book on different kinds of religions. We went to a mosque and we went to a Buddhist temple. We studied various different religious backgrounds. He was super interested in Judaism. Even then, he was like, I'm not ready to believe in something like that. And he's almost 14 and he still is like, I'm not sure if I'm ready to give my belief to something quite yet.
And if he was going to give it to something, I would think it would be Judaism. Judah. I mean, come on now. I can't be the only one that thinks that.
Yeah, well.
But something that you said, this 11 to 12-year-old range.
Yeah.
In a lot of other cultures, especially non-modernized cultures, there's a rite of passage,
Yep.
manhood, you know, that happens a lot of times around that age, maybe a little older, but the time where you have to find yourself, you have to learn and go out and be.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely something to keeping that age mirrored to that kind of experience.
Yeah. There's a whole, that's a whole podcast we can do on the uninitiated adolescence male in this world and the masculine in general. But for the sake of our conversation today, it is bringing it back to, for those of you guys that maybe have gone through divorce or just deconstruction, what it is like to experience the feeling of your kids who have their own agency for things like this that might want to go back and be a part of something that deeply wounded you. And how do you deal with that? How do you support them, but also protect yourself, and what kind of boundaries need to be set and expectations? Those are real conversations that really need to be discussed. So let's discuss, babe.
It's so difficult because you mentioned hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Places that hurt me, hurt you, hurt us. It wasn't just my hurt that it angers me. It's the way the church hurt other people, the way the church took advantage of other people to benefit the few.
Mm-hmm.
All under the guise of it being for the kingdom. I just don't remember when I was growing up hearing about a Jesus that needed a $10 million facility that had 12 different kinds of authentic sourced coffee, these things that cost millions and millions of dollars to do. I don't remember reading about the people in the Bible that would go out and teach the word to people for $150,000 a year.
Yeah.
It's just so much hurt towards others. I've learned to get over some of the hurt that it's done to me. Even present day in my mind, see that a lot of those same things are occurring. It feels scary as hell to let any of my family walk into that pit.
Yeah. The truth is that Jesus meant to build a gospel, and instead they took it and built an empire. They found a way to make it consumeristic. And of course they did. Yeah, I have that very similar feeling. I remember when Judah was really young and realizing that he was so driven towards perfection that I became very, very concerned with him learning Christianity, actually, because I was afraid of how that forgiveness and atonement of sins could really like warp his already perfection-driven mind. I actually had a real fear that I expressed with his dad a couple years ago that was like, I do not want him to be near some sort of evangelized Christian charismatic story. Like, I'm fine with like a Methodist. I'm fine with anything like that isn't this sin-based, atonement-based thing, because I'm afraid it's really going to actually cause damage to him.
And I can totally relate with that. Growing up in this, any kind of sin and you die, you're going to hell, which for someone who has obsessive compulsive tendencies,
yeah,
that will literally drive you crazy. I watched my brother pray under his breath any chance when something he thought might be a sin happened.
It's emotional abuse.
It is, but that is kind of the danger of some of those things. I want to know, what was the final nail in the coffin of why you left church?
It was February of 2017. I knew that I was like on my way out, but I was still in leadership in church, and I was doing some like across church, different kinds of ministries. And one of the ones that was kind of giving me hope, they said that they were an interfaith mission, and it was about heroin in Dayton. And I was like, I'm willing to put my energy in this, and it's interfaith. I quickly become the leader of it. I quickly become the person that's raising the funds and organizing all the things, because that's what I do. One of the members follows me on Facebook and saw me posting things about yoga, and they took me to the side the next time that we met, and they said that they couldn't have that kind of image. And I was like, what do you mean by interfaith? And essentially what they said to me is like Abrahamic faiths. So they were cool with Judaism and Islam, but they were not okay with anything else. They just wanted Abrahamic faiths. I remember being like, really? You would co-op with someone that is Muslim? And they never answered that question. So I know it was all bullshit in general. But that was the final straw for me, where I was like, I actually have like a rant on my phone still from that day that's just like, fuck all this shit. What a lie. What a crock. They want what they want. They won't tolerate any other perception other than this, like, you know, super conservative NRA toting like white Jesus. And that's just not the truth of Jesus. We talk about this, which is like, I'm not a Christian anymore, but I do truly value the story and the myth of Jesus. And it's done massive work in my life, you know, and I have appreciation for that. And I have my own kind of faith around that. That was the last straw, was when these people that I had once really looked up to in the Christian community here said that they were doing something interfaith, and it was a blatant lie.
A lot of lies, both seen, unseen.
So many unseen.
The lies the church tells are damaging at the very least, and they are life-altering in negative ways at the extremes.
You know, I work largely in a lot of subconscious reprogramming, and people ask me like why originally I went with the church witch, and I will say it till the day that I die, and that is like, if you want to get to the root of a person, you have to get to the root of their belief. And those really, really early imprints, especially around things like sin and, you know, if you do this thing, you're going to go to hell, it really imprints as such a strong fear-based message on a survival level that it is so hard to pull apart out of a person's subconscious. Like, their belief system is largely the foundation of the entire scaffolding of their psyche. For those of you guys that have deconstructed or deconstructing, like it is so deep and interwoven, to kind of bring us back to the parenting aspect. I know for me, when Marshall asked that, and he's not even my bio kid and I didn't go to that church and experience that, immediately I was like, oh, hell no. We obviously didn't do that. That was my instinct is to protect our children from Christianity. Like that's my instinct, is that this is mental and emotional abuse and gaslighting and dismissing the narrative that is being touted by the American church, and the evangelical, narrative is harmful. It's dangerous. That's what I believe.
I don't see our children acting in a way that Christianity has any kind of luck in them.
Like, hold on. Them.
They go to church because it's cool, or their friends ask them.
Yeah, their girlfriend asked them to go to church. Their girlfriend
asked them. Then they're bopping to rap music, saying all, I don't get that sense. Yeah, I don't want them going. But I'm also not going to be, I don't want to be a helicopter parent. I don't want to repeat the same mistakes that happened when I was a kid. I want our children to have the ability to experience things that make us uncomfortable, whether that's for prior trauma's sake and experience, or if it's uncomfortable because it's different, as long as it's in a safe environment. I didn't get that growing up. I didn't get that opportunity to have any of that. And you did, on an extreme kind of different way than we've covered that in prior episodes. You said it yourself, so much of our psyche is built in these time periods where they are and how they're formed. I think that how we live and how we operate has a 10 times more effect than anything that a church has right now. The church, to me, can only play what the influence of like an acquaintance does. Okay? I don't want church being their best friend. I don't want church being their lover. I don't even want church being their friend. I just want church to be like an acquaintance, like somebody that you know, but you don't really spend a whole lot of time thinking about.
But see, you can't control that. I was super impressionable and I wanted to fit in so bad that Christianity became my entire identity. I hear you, but we can't control how that happens, especially knowing that so many of these evangelical groups are targeting young boys with this messaging that's like, it's up to you to save, the original message of God and blah, blah, blah. Like, they're targeting particularly the ages of our boys right now. That's stuff that I have to deal with in my mind, where, as a mom of 6 boys, and there are 7 boys in this house.
6, 7.
Thank you. That I definitely recognize my own apprehension around.
I simply say, fucking bring it on. I have apprehension of things myself. I would rather be a part of their experience than for them to fuck with it afterwards and have no real knowledge. It's like alcohol or talking about sex or any of these other things that didn't happen for me growing up. I don't want them to experience it without any kind of baseline knowledge or me being involved with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we, have our own differences on how that's going to be, and we'll find our way in the middle, and you guys can come along with us as we do. I think that the one thing that gives me hope is that I hope that they can just function like sleeper cells. Like, they come in and like something's being taught and they're like, that doesn't make sense. Where did that happen? Like, how does that sound like Jesus in this world? Like, I hope that they get to be mirrors and, rebels in the midst of all of it.
There's time for that. There's time. Our kids are very inquisitive, impressionable, yes, but what we talk about at home and how we discuss things, they pick up on a lot of those things too, and I look forward to it.
Not surprising to me, but I remember a tactic that my friend Whitney, shout out to Whitney Ryder, she's an amazing mom and taught me so many different strategies with kids when I was deconstructing and I was still in church and trying to make that segue out of that into another area of my life, is that she would always teach me to ask them when they were coming home and they were like, well, they taught me this and that. And then just immediately be like, and what did you think about that? Did that make sense to you? Did you ask her about this part? Like, what did she say? So you just like keep this curiosity of like making sure that you prioritize their perspective and their opinion, and make sure that they know that the most important thing that left that situation was their opinion and their perception, instead of just like not addressing it at all, not talking about it at all, but like bringing the conversation that happened up for discussion and making sure that there was space for the kid to be able to share their opinions, their feelings about it, and et cetera, et cetera.
There are curriculums specifically written for, ages 0 to like 3, which wants to focus on this, just like feelings. Ages like 4 to 6 want to focus on the large concepts, general themes. And they don't really offer a lot of conversation until you get into the middle school and high school scene. And even then, not a lot of questions get asked.
Yeah.
And so I saw that in the youth group. Teaching 7th graders versus 12th graders is way different.
Yeah.
It can be so easy, bringing it back to what you said, where you're having your child stay inquisitive. There isn't always a lot of room for debate or conversation, as much as like, this is what I say and this is what it's truth. And you just need to accept that this is the version that happened.
Yeah, this is 2 things come up when you say that. Number 1, I remember when my parents tried to take us to church when I was young, I was probably 5 or 6, that I got kicked out of church, like youth group, or not youth group, but like kids' church, every time that we tried to go, because I would always interrogate the Bible study teacher and ask her who made God over and over and over. Okay, I hear you, but then like who made God? So like early signs. The other thing is that what's really interesting, and why I really feel like there should be literally an age label on belief systems, is that we subconsciously download the patterns, the habits, the beliefs, and the culture of our caregivers and our environments just completely unconsciously until we're 7 years old, just full on, just downloading everything about it. And then up until we're 12 years old, everything is about building survival. So it's cult teaching. Like it really is of like, this is the way of this. It is very much so about like training to learn what are the values of our tribe, what are the values of our society, and should you leave them, like you might go without water, you might go like evolutionarily, we're literally wired to basically download our parent and our environment until we're 12. And then 12 is when the hormones start to kick in and they actually start to separate us from our caregivers.
The cult behaviors, the repetitions of those age, though, sometimes put such a grasp on someone, especially when they're initiated that way and just all in. And that's where you get a lot of this grooming behavior.
Yes.
That happens, and you see it all the time, all kinds of denominations, faiths, where person in position of power or authority has set up our children for some serious problems.
They literally train you that your flesh is bad, that your emotions are untrustworthy, and your heart is not good. So they literally cut you off from the main centers that connect you to your intuition and to your body, and then tell you that the thing that you need to do is read this one book and listen to that one guy standing up on the stage. They completely cut you off from anything that would give you the ability to have any control, right? And then the moment that we decide that we're like, well, I want to gain control back in my life, and we don't know how to do it, that's why. We've been trained that every natural resource and tool that we have is of the devil and will take us to this fiery pit of suffering forever. It's the perfect prison.
For so many people who have gone through deconstruction, it didn't maybe happen until we were much, much older because of how deeply ingrained some of that is. Some of those questions that you're trying to ask and you've asked them of yourself, but then like you start to think to ask others. And it's something that had a huge hold on both of our lives for a while. As we wrap this episode up, because it started with our 12-year-old wanting to go to the same church that Dad used to be a pastor at.
Because of his last minute girlfriend.
Because of last minute girlfriends. Like, that's a whole nother topic we'll get on. Is
yeah, well, I was like, I wonder if she's going to see all my witchy books and what she might say.
If we don't get grades up, you know, we might not be seeing too much more anyways.
Yeah, that's true.
Because we are finding out that maybe not the phone is the distraction so much as the other end of the phone. So at this point, I think it's time that we should go ahead and call it a day. Church always gets me a little bit antsy. It gets me a little bit angry, but I also I wanted to come from a point of like calmness about this topic because it's so easy not to.
I know. I feel like you're being so much more calm than I am about it. And I think I really wonder like how much of your defense mechanism is kicked in on it. Like to the safety, you know, like the safety that can happen in like that freeze state. Like I wonder, but then also maybe it is something that you've worked all the way through. And obviously like I could rant about Abrahamic faiths forever. I just won't do it today.
Ultimately, I feel like we have so many other bigger things
Other
with
fish to
merging
fry.
a family, with all of the things that we're going through right now. It's going to be all right. I'm just going to trust the process there and know that we're going to continue to play a really big integral part of our children's lives. We will always have a chance. We will always have that ability to talk with them as long as they keep us in their lives. And we're going to do that by showing up to them every single day when we see them and just be consistent and show them that we are a safe space, because that is what our children need. Is they need a safe space to explore themselves and to be comfortable, because the world is waiting to eat them alive by misguided expectations, by all of these things that are out of our control.
Yeah.
It's our chance to just pour into our children. So as long as they keep talking to us, we got a shot, babe.
Yeah. I love you for that. I love you so much for that. Well, thank you, listeners, for joining us in episode 5. I just want to invite you guys into the discussion with us. We're now starting to build some consistency here, and we are so excited about this slow build of our Patreon community. We want to hear some of your thoughts, you know, especially about like, were you able to deconstruct like, you know, one of the conversations we talked about was community. Church really does still know how to do community. Were you guys able to find community on the other side of your deconstruction? Where are you at in that journey? That's something I'd really love to hear and discuss. Regardless, please make sure that you look for us on all socials under Joint Discussions Pod. And we're so excited to see you guys next week. Anything else, babe?
Later, Gators.